My brother's deceit shattered my career, stole my freedom, and ripped my children away. Now he's lauded as their savior, but he gravely misjudged me. I returned home from my daughter's dance recital to find my bedroom safe wide open. Grandma's entire jewelry collection, her wedding pearls, Grandpa's military ring, all worth approximately $18,000, were gone. I exhaled, pinching the bridge of my nose. Earlier that morning, my brother Logan had come over for Sunday brunch. Logan, at 30, was essentially a grown-up toddler. He was unemployed, constantly badgering our parents for money, a complete drain. So, standing in my bedroom, staring at the empty safe, I knew exactly who was responsible. When I confronted Logan at his apartment an hour later, he was playing Fortnite, wearing Grandpa's ring like a trophy. "Insurance will cover it," he smirked as I demanded everything back. "Besides, what's some old jewelry compared to your baby brother's life?" I tried to explain that Grandma had explicitly wanted the pearls passed down to the oldest granddaughter, but he merely shrugged, suggesting I could buy new ones with all my fancy nursing money. The pungent odor of drug paraphernalia in his room made me nauseous, so I left and drove to my parents' house. But the moment the front door opened, my father punched a hole in the drywall. Logan already told us what happened.
How dare you?
Go to his apartment and threaten him during his recovery? My mother was even more distraught, accusing me of being callous for kicking Logan while he was down. They demanded an apology. That's when it hit me. The best revenge is a sweet smile. I left and went to work. For the next 2 weeks, I visited every pawn shop within a 50-mile radius. Some of my grandmother's pieces had already sold, but I tracked down the buyers using social media, knocked on their doors, and offered triple what they had paid. I spent $18,000 of my retirement savings to get everything back, confident my plan would be worth it. Our yearly family dinner took place 2 weeks later. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and other relatives in their 30s crammed into my parents' home. I waited until everyone was seated before tapping my fork on a champagne glass. "Logan," I announced, ensuring every family member could hear. "Since you accidentally stole all of Grandma's jewelry from my safe and pawned it off, I decided to get it all back, just for you. Here's everything, professionally cleaned and restored." The silence was deafening. Logan's face cycled from stark white to deep crimson, but he couldn't erupt. Not with Aunt Diane pointedly asking why I had to rescue family heirlooms from pawn shops, and Uncle Rob muttering about addiction and thievery. Life felt sweet. But on the drive home, a thought nagged at me. Overshadow my duty to be a good sister. So, the next morning, driven by guilt, I drove him to the state's top rehab facility and paid $30,000 for a 90-day program that included equine therapy, private rooms, and genuine medical supervision. And every Sunday, I drove 3 hours each way to visit. Fortunately, the counselors couldn't stop praising me. The more praise I received, the more Logan despised me. Still, I believed Rahab would help him. When he was released after 90 days, he was different, but not in a good way. He would drive by my house at odd hours. I'd catch glimpses of his car. He somehow knew when I'd be at work and when I'd pick up my daughter, but I wasn't worried. He'd never harmed my child before, and it seemed unlikely he would now. 3 weeks later, it was time for Sophie's school spring musical. I was helping her with her seatbelt when the world exploded in spotlights and sirens. 20 officers, guns drawn, hands where we can see them, step away from the vehicle. Sophie began screaming. They forced me to the ground on the asphalt while my 6-year-old watched her mother, whom she believed could move mountains, face down next to the car. The drug dogs went straight to my trunk, uncovered a concealed compartment I had no idea existed, and pulled out 3 small baggies. "Mommy, what's happening to Mommy?" My child shrieked as I lay there, gravel grinding into my cheek. When I saw Logan waiting in his car at the far edge of the parking lot, just watching to ensure his anonymous tip paid off exactly as planned, my hands were yanked behind my back, cold metal biting into my wrists as the shackles clicked shut. The officer's knee pressed harder into my spine, crushing me further into the asphalt.
House.
Sophie's shouts became frenzied, and the words from tomorrow. Her musical solo poured out between sobs. Her red sequined Annie costume caught every police light, transforming my child into a gleaming beacon of horror. Noah vomited. I heard him retching in the back seat, choking on his own anxiety. My 9-year-old son, who had been so excited to see his sister perform, now saw his mother face down on the pavement, surrounded by armed officers. They helped me to my feet. Through the pandemonium, I locked eyes with Logan once more. He lifted his phone to record everything. Then he started his car and drove off. Mission accomplished. Sophie's muffled weeping and Noah's unanswered questions filled the ride to the station. Child services met us there, and 2 people with clipboards escorted my children away while I was processed. Sophie reached for me, singing broken parts of Tomorrow like a desperate prayer. I recognized the desk sergeant Tom Morrison immediately during booking. He was 2 years ahead of Trent in high school. We'd played football together. His expression sank when he saw me. "Claire," he kept, his voice low and professional, but I could see his disappointment. "Our uncle's going to be heartbroken." My uncle, the sheriff, had been so proud when I became a nurse, boasting about having one excellent apple in the family tree. Tom examined my fingerprints with visible hesitation, speaking just loud enough for me to hear. They gave me one phone call. My parents' landline rang 4 times before switching to their outdated answering machine. Dad's gruff voice prompting callers to leave a message. I grabbed the receiver with shaky fingers. "Mom, Dad, it's Claire. I've been arrested. It's not true. None of it's true." Logan planted substances in my car. "Please, I need you to get the kids from child services. Please answer. Please." The machine cut me off mid-plea. They tossed me into a cell with 2 drunk drivers and a woman who had hit her partner with a frying pan. When they heard my charge as possession with intent to distribute in a school zone, the atmosphere shifted. The drunk drivers scooted away. The domestic abuser scoffed. Substance dealer, picking up kids at school? Real classy. Oh. I sat on the metal seat, knees drawn to my chest, reliving each moment. How long had the concealed compartment been there? When did Logan install it? During one of his drive-bys while I was working, Sophie's principal arrived at the station 2 hours later. But she was unhelpful. Mrs. Henderson's expression was stony. As she spoke with the officers, gesticulating angrily, caught snippets through the reinforced glass, banned from school property, pending investigation, safety of other children. Even if I made bail, I wouldn't be able to pick up my own. Children from school? I couldn't attend parent-teacher conferences. Sophie couldn't be seen in another play. My court-appointed lawyer arrived at midnight, fresh out of law school, his suit too big, his hands shakier than mine as he fumbled with his briefcase. Laid out papers, pointing to statistics that made my stomach plummet. The amount they found, with the hidden compartment that puts you in trafficking weight, mandatory minimums. We're talking decades, not years. His voice cracked over decades. This child who should be worried about student loans was outlining how I might not see freedom until Sophie was older than me. But I didn't know about the compartment. I didn't put anything there. He adjusted his glasses with a nervous twitch. "Doesn't matter, it's your car. Possession is possession, and in a school zone, the judge won't have discretion, even if he wanted to." Arraignment occurred at 3 a.m. They escorted me into a courtroom that smelled like stale coffee and misery. The gallery was mostly empty, with the exception of the back row. Logan sat there, phone out, recording again, making sure he caught every bit of my demise. The judge, a strict woman with silver hair, read the charges: possession with intent to distribute ... school zone enhancements, child endangerment. Every word was another nail in my coffin. When my lawyer argued for bail, his arguments fell flat. Given the defendant's access to minor children and the location of the arrest, I'm denying bail. Defendant poses a risk to the community, particularly minor children. The gavel crashed down like thunder. Back at the county jail, the medical intake nurse went over her checklist, which included emergency contacts, medical problems, and current prescriptions. When she asked for someone to notify about my children, I had no choice. She looked up, noticing the irony in my voice. "The same Logan Williams listed as the reporting party?" I nodded, She made a note, and her demeanor softened slightly. She had previously witnessed families using the system as a weapon, but simply witnessing it didn't give her the power to intervene. They sent me to a cell alongside Tamara, a 50-something woman with a weathered face serving a 6-month sentence for producing meth. She looked at me, still dressed for Sophie's performance, and shook her head. First time? I nodded. What did they get you for? I told her about the concealed compartment, how I'd never seen these compounds before, how my brother had been stalking me. Tamara listened, then laughed cruelly. Hidden compartment you didn't know about? Classic plant job? Your brother's either smart or had help. Probably both. She described how it worked. Install the compartment when the target isn't there. Load it, then provide an anonymous tip about suspicious activity. Cops find the drugs, and you're suddenly staring at decades while the true perpetrator plays victim. Seen it a dozen times. Ex-husbands, business partners, family members. System don't care who put it there. They care who owns the car. My first video visitation came the next morning, allowing me to see my children through a screen for 15 minutes. However, when the connection was established, Sophie and Noah weren't alone. Logan hovered behind my parents, watching, making sure I noticed him. Mom spoke first. Claire, honey, maybe this is for the best. Maybe jail will help you get clean. I'm not on substances, Mom. I've never denial as part of addiction, she interrupted me. The counselors at Logan's rehab warned us about this. Logan leaned forward just enough that I could see his mouth. He said 2 words. I told you. My mother explained that Sophie hadn't spoken since her arrest, only repeating tomorrow. Noah had started wetting the bed again. We were staying with my folks temporarily while things were sorted out. Sophie reached for the screen at the end of the call, tears streaming down her cheeks as she refused to take off her Annie costume. That afternoon, hospital security presented me with a notice of suspension without pay, effective immediately. My contract's morals clause made it clear that any arrest for substance-related offenses would result in automatic suspension pending investigation. No paycheck, no health insurance, no way to pay for a legitimate lawyer. I did the math on the cell wall using a pencil stub. The mortgage payment due in 2 weeks. After that, car payments, utilities, Sophie's dance classes, Noah's baseball league. Everything I had built crumbled as I sat in an orange jumpsuit. The nursing board will be notified within 72 hours. Standard procedure for substance-related arrests. My license would be reviewed after 10 years of schooling, clinicals, and continuous education. Even if I beat the charges, the review could take years. Years would pass while I was unable to work in my career. 3 days later, child welfare services arrived. Tired-looking woman with gentle eyes delivered awful news. Logan and your parents have filed for emergency custody. Given your current incarceration and the nature of the charges, the court is inclined to grant temporary custody to family members. Your brother has been especially proactive in ensuring the children's stability. Proactive. That's what they called it when someone shattered your life and then offered to pick up the pieces. He's an addict, I informed her. Check his record. Multiple arrests, failed rehabs. She flipped through her papers. Mr. Williams provided documentation of successful completion of a 90-day program. He's been clean for 4 months, regular. Attendance at NA meetings, employed full-time. Employed. Since when? Additionally, your parents are providing support to parent household, stable income, clean background checks. I'm sorry, but from the court's perspective, she didn't need to finish. According to the court, I was a drug dealer who endangered children. Logan was a recovering addict making positive adjustments. The truth was irrelevant. Renee, my dearest friend, came to visit that weekend. She had been crying. I could see it in her watery eyes and the smudged mascara she had attempted to repair. In the parking lot, David says, ... I can't. Doesn't want me associating with. She couldn't finish, but she did hand me a folded paper. Logan is coming around asking about your computer passwords, bank accounts. I altered everything I could think of. The memo listed every account she had helped me secure, including email, banking, social media, and even my Netflix password. At the bottom, she wrote, "He's using your kids to get people to talk. Says he needs access to help them.
Oh.
Don't trust anyone." The second blow came from the jail's law library computer, which I had access to for an hour. My arrest had made local news. Local nurse detained during school drug bust. The piece featured my mugshot showing empty eyes, matted hair, and the smeared remains of my performance makeup across my face. The commentary section was savage. Parents from Sophie's school demanded I stay away from their children. People I had treated in the hospital expressed shock and disappointment. There, with his real name and profile image, was Logan, praying for my sister's recovery and healing. Addiction is a disease. Our family won't give up on her. 47 likes. Dozens of supportive responses. He had turned my demise into his redemption story. My public defender departed the following week. She had been selected for a high-profile federal lawsuit. Her replacement hadn't even reviewed my file. She called me Nicole throughout the meeting, sifting through documents with confused fury. "So, you're saying someone planted these substances?" "Yes, my brother. He installed a hidden compartment. Do you have proof? Receipts? Video footage? Witnesses?" I had nothing. Just the word of a suspected drug dealer against a recovering addict who bravely stepped up to care for frightened children. Logan's CPS video interview with my children went just as planned. Sophie, confused and bewildered, told the investigator that Mommy hides items in the car. When asked what kind of things, she shut down and reverted to her tomorrow refrain. But the damage had been done.
Oh.
Noah attempted to help. But the investigator focused on Sophie's comments, meticulously documenting them while disregarding Noah's as inconsistent with the timetable. I started trading commissary for legal advice from a lady serving a 5-year sentence for fraud. She was a paralegal before being arrested and knew the system inside and out. Her assessment was dismal. Family court moves fast. It's faster than criminal court. Your brother could have permanent custody before your trial even starts, and once they have custody for 6 months, it becomes the status quo. Judges don't like disrupting the status quo. That night, I lay awake calculating the time. How long before something temporary turned permanent? How long until my children forgot how it felt to have me tuck them in? How long until Logan's version of events became the truth? The answer arrived 2 weeks later when my parents paid me a visit. They brought Logan's legal documents, which he had prepared with his new girlfriend, Belle, a paralegal student. Temporary guardianship, my mother informed me. For the children's stability, you understand. Behind her, my father stood still, his jaw set. He turned to me. Sophie's turning 10 in 2 weeks. When I refused to sign, his fist tightened as if he intended to punch another wall. Be reasonable, Claire. The kids need stability. They need normal, not a mother in jail. I didn't do this, Dad. You know me. You know I would never. I thought I knew you, he interjected. But the daughter I raised wouldn't have substances, in her car, wouldn't get arrested at her child's school, wouldn't put her babies through this trauma. They left the papers. Temporary guardianship until the situation was settled. But I knew better. Nothing is temporary when you're fighting. The system from within a jail. That night, the local Facebook moms group began posting my mugshot. Warning: substance dealer nurse, keep our schools safe, protect our children. Each post added another nail to my reputation's coffin. Renee texted me screenshots until her husband found out and forced her to block me. But it was Logan's words that broke me. As a recovering addict, I know how hard it is to admit you need help. I'm praying my sister finds the strength to choose recovery. Her children deserve a healthy mother. Break the cycle. Recovery is possible.
Yes.
134 likes, 62 shares. My destruction had become his platform. My mortgage company sent me another notice the next morning. The automated payment had failed. My accounts were frozen as a result of the asset investigation. A missed payment triggered the acceleration clause. 30 days to pay in full or face foreclosure. Logan shared Instagram stories from my house that afternoon. maintaining Sissy's place for when she gets better. Family Hope, who's in my kitchen using my dishes, sitting on my couch, and moving his belongings box by box as I sat in a cage. During the journey to family court, I finally grasped the gravity of my predicament. The deputies conversing in the front seat had no idea I could hear them. Sheriff's taking it hard. That's his niece, the good one, right? The nurse, yeah, always said she was the only one who made something of herself. Now, this Logan seems to be doing better, though. Saw him at the grocery store with those kids. Real sweet with them. My uncle, the sheriff, could have helped, investigated, or at least listened. But family was family, and I had become the family's source of disgrace. A cautionary tale. The good one had gone rotten. In family court, I appeared via video connection. In an orange jumpsuit, handcuffed to a table, hair unwashed, no makeup, looking every bit the substance dealer they suspected I was. Logan sat in the gallery, pristine button-down shirt and hands folded, the epitome of responsible rehabilitation. His liar, not his lover. But a genuine attorney he could afford painted a stunning picture, a recovering addict. For months clean, working full-time, providing a stable environment for traumatized youngsters. My parents testified on his behalf. Sophie's head teacher also wrote a letter supporting his custody petition. The judge's ruling was swift. Logan and my parents had temporary custody. If and when I was released, I would have supervised visits. Best interests of the children. I noticed my brother's expression when the judge spoke. No smirking, no gloating, only calm satisfaction. He had triumphed not by violence or intimidation, but through patience and forethought. He had turned my own goodness against me, my determination. To help him recover, my trust that he would never harm my children, my conviction that family mattered. As they escorted me back to my cell, I grasped the truth. Logan had not merely taken my grandmother's valuables, he had stolen my entire life. Everyone congratulated him for doing it so precisely. The system had performed just as he expected. Good sister with no record versus recovering addict, making positive improvements. The story wrote itself. All he had to do was reverse our roles, and I was now the antagonist in my own story. That night, Tamara found me sobbing on my bunk. She didn't offer consolation. Incarceration doesn't work that way. But she did offer the truth. Its first rule of frame jobs, she explained. The best ones make the victim look guilty of exactly what they'd never do. Is there a nurse with no substance abuse history? Plant substances, good mother? Make her appear dangerous to children? Strong woman? Put her in a cage where strength isn't important. She was correct. Logan had twisted all of my strengths against me. My pristine record made the arrest even more startling. My good reputation. Added to the drama of the fall, my affection for my children made the separation much more painful. Tamara asked, "What are you going to do about it? You can either sit here and cry or start fighting. In any case, your children are growing up without you. Clock is ticking." I rubbed my face across the rough pillowcase. She was correct. Clock was ticking. Logan's position grew stronger with each day I was here. Another day, my children adjusted to life without me. Another day, my truth became less convincing. I recalled Sophie refusing to take off her Annie outfit and singing about tomorrow. Noah's bedwetting. My parents' decision to believe the comfortable falsehood over the difficult truth. Most of all, I imagined Logan sitting in my home raising my children, playing the hero in a narrative where I was the villain. He had utterly won this round, and everyone congratulated him. Tomorrow was correct about something else, too. The time was ticking for him as well, because addicts don't stay clean when they have everything they want. They stay clean when they are battling for something. Logan had just won all he had fought for. The counselors in rehab had warned about this, but not in the way my mother expected. They discussed environmental triggers, dangers of achieving too much success too quickly, the fine line between recovery and relapse. I knew my brother. I knew him better than anyone. Wasn't using when he planted those substances. He'd been overly cautious, too precise. But today, with my house, my children, and my parents' full trust, with no one observing, suspecting, or holding him accountable, the time was ticking for both of us. The only question was, which timer would run out first, his sobriety or my? Freedom, Logan began his rehab blog the following Monday. Breaking the Cycle launched with a photo of him hugging Sophie and Noah on my parents' front porch. The first piece described his journey from addiction to being a guardian angel. For his nibblings, a term that made me physically nauseous. Within hours, sympathetic responses flooded in. Mothers admired his bravery. His story was circulated around recovery groups. Someone launched a GoFundMe page to cover his legal fees and protect the children. Tamara noticed me continuously refreshing the page while on the computer. She finally grasped my wrist, forcing me to look into her worn face. Her cousin worked at the impound company that towed my car. For $200 in commissary, she told me he could check the hidden compartment for fingerprints. Tool marks anything the police might have missed. I eagerly agreed, trading my phone privileges for ramen noodles and coffee packs. The video visitation that week shattered what little self-control I had. Logan positioned himself just out of the camera's view, but I could see his hand on Sophie's shoulder. My daughter's gaze shifted between the screen and something off camera as she questioned why I had brought terrible medication to her play. The words sounded stilted, rehearsed. Noah sat quietly, arms folded, unwilling to look at the TV at all. Sophie put her small palm against the monitor. After 15 minutes, and I noticed Logan's fingers tighten on her shoulder. My new predicament became clear during a meeting with my public defender. She realized that all of my jail calls were recorded as routine procedure. Logan's girlfriend, Belle, had made a records request as part of her paralegal studies. Logan now had access to every conversation I had about the setup, every strategy conference with my lawyer, and every desperate declaration of innocence. My defender suggested we change our approach. So, what was the point? He knew everything. Tamara's cousin responded 3 days later. The secret compartment revealed clear tool marks indicating recent installation, scratches in the metal and fresh drill shavings. Although the authorities did not photograph those details during their initial examination. Worse, many investigators had polluted the scene, rendering any evidence legally suspect. Nonetheless, it served as confirmation that the compartment was not factory-placed. Someone had modified my automobile. Family court imposed fresh instructions that felt like retribution disguised as process. Before any visits could resume, I had to finish parenting classes and substance abuse counseling. The catch? Jail only provided these services to sentenced offenders, not pretrial detainees. I was trapped in a bureaucratic nightmare, unable to meet obligations that were impossible to accomplish in my existing position. Renee delivered the next blow, putting her marriage at jeopardy by returning. Logan had accessed Sophie's college fund as her temporary guardian. $5,000 was withdrawn for trauma treatment, with a friend of Belle's who claimed to be a life coach but had no credentials. Legal? Yes. Devastating, absolutely. I had saved that money since Sophie was born. $20 here, $50 there. She was saving for her future, one deposit at a time. The local news broadcast a positive story about rehabilitation and redemption. Logan was at a charity 5K, sporting a personalized shirt with my children's faces and the words running for their future across the back. The reporter applauded his commitment to breaking the cycle of addiction. Sophie and Noah cheered my brother on as he crossed the finish line, which I watched on the dayroom screen. Other convicts changed channels, but the damage had been done. My third public defender discovered a discrepancy in the prosecutor's case. The substance weight did not match the trafficking allegations. It was barely over the possession limit. She advised, pleading down to simple possession, time served, probation. However, any substance-related conviction meant I would lose my nursing license permanently, meant Logan remained in detention. It entailed admitting to something I did not do. Mandatory group therapy became a kind of torture. Sitting in a circle alongside true addicts, listening to their stories while remaining innocent. Every time I spoke, the counselor made notes, recording denial and lack of accountability in a file that would follow me through the system. Truth sounded just like falsehoods in that room. Every claim of innocence was only another indication of addiction. Logan took the kids for what he called a closure visit. Sophie wore clothes I didn't recognize, including designer labels I'd never purchase. Both children addressed Belle as Miss Belle with real fondness. She'd braided Sophie's hair in a way I'd attempted but failed to achieve. Noah showed me his new baseball glove, made of premium leather and smelling of privilege. They discussed their new routines, Belle's cooking, and trips I'd always promised but couldn't afford. My kids were becoming strangers. Logan made certain I saw every excruciating detail. My father paid a visit alone the next week. He appeared shattered, older beyond his years. He admitted knowing Logan was using again, finding needles in the bathroom and discovering money stolen from his wallet. But Logan was functional, he reasoned. At least the children had stability. He begged me to accept a plea deal. Stop fighting what everyone already believes. The man who had punched through walls to defend me now urged me to submit. Even my commissary account became a war. Renee's deposited funds mysteriously disappeared. Logan had marked himself as an approved visitor and family member, allowing him access to my account. He had systematically emptied everything, leaving me unable to purchase basic hygiene supplies. The jail responded with a shrug. Family members had these rights. The foreclosure letter came as a final insult. Logan was interviewed by local TV at the sale of my house about his efforts to save the family home despite his sister's choices. He stood on my front lawn, appearing appropriately sad, recounting how addiction had devastated families. Behind him, I could see my rose bushes, wilting due to carelessness. Kara, a former colleague, risked her career to visit with distressing news.
Ow.
Logan was employed by the hospital to serve as a night custodian. He now had access to medical records, controlled substance disposal facilities, and the halls where I had spent my whole career. She had spotted him asking questions about ketamine disposal processes, anesthesia cart codes. The ramifications horrified both of us. Tamara revealed that she had filmed Logan buying from her dealer 6 weeks prior to my arrest. The footage was crisp, including his face, voice, and the transaction. However, it also revealed Tamara's dealings, rendering it legally inadmissible. The evidence that could set me free would cage her. She offered it nevertheless, knowing what it could cost her. I couldn't accept that sacrifice. A private investigator, hired by Renee's husband, discovered something significant. Logan had been calling in medicines under my nursing license number. The D database revealed unusual patterns of controlled medications prescribed to people I had never treated. Identity theft on top of everything else. However, revealing it risked launching a federal probe that could last years. My uncle paid me a visit after hours alone. He appeared older, his shoulders hunched with guilt. He suspected Logan from the start, but was unable to probe his family. Now he offered to pay for a private attorney, provided I agreed to leave town following. A swift acquittal. To save our reputation, the good apple of the family tree would have to perish. I agreed. What options did I have? Sophie's teacher phoned CPS, raising concerns that made my heart race. During art class, my daughter drew rough images of Uncle Logan's secret box in Mommy's car. However, the investigator rejected these as traumatic responses. Children use art to process tough emotions. Adults who thought they knew better dismissed the truth from the mouths of children. The private attorney my uncle hired provided both optimism and harsh reality. Logan's public sympathy campaign had tainted the jury pool. Everyone had heard the story about the courageous recovering addict who saved his sister's children. She advised pursuing a bench trial before a judge with discretion over mandated minimums. It meant putting my fate in the hands of just one person. Rather than 12, I violated ethical boundaries I never imagined I would. During the literacy program, I became friends with the coordinator whose daughter attended Sophie's class. Technically, this violated the no-contact order, but I needed information on my children. Sophie had completely ceased singing, I discovered from her. No more tomorrow, nothing more. The music had died with her mother's arrest. During transportation for attorney meetings, I recognized the bailiff. Jordan Wells was Logan's dealer. In high school, courthouse security had been clean and operational for the past decade. pulled me aside in the holding room and whispered that Logan had attempted to buy from him last month. Logan knew his background. He knew his triggers. He attempted to exploit them. Jordan couldn't testify because it would jeopardize his career, but he wanted me to know the facts. The attorney subpoenaed pharmaceutical data, which revealed a damning picture. Logan had filled prescriptions with my D number the week before my arrest, leaving a paper trail of identity theft. However, the prosecutor maintained that this was different from the drug accusations, relevant to motive, but not proof that evidence was planted. The system separated crimes just as it segmented people's lives. Belle's pregnancy announcement amid family court proceedings seemed like a deliberate blow. She stood before the judge, palm on her still flat stomach, discussing establishing a stable-to-parent home for all of the children. Logan wiped away tears, which could have been genuine. The judge prolonged interim custody, impressed by the heartfelt demonstration of family planning. Sophie's 6th birthday passed me by while I was in jail. Logan live-streamed the celebration at Chuck E. Cheese, something I had never been able to afford. Sophie blew out the candles without looking at the camera. Her face was a mask of forced delight. The other parents grinned and clapped, doubtedly pleased that the substance dealer mother wasn't around to disrupt the festivities. Noah sat in a corner, arms folded, unwilling to engage. The job release program provided cruel hope. I could leave jail at night to clean offices and earn money for my legal bills. The site, my former hospital. The universe's nasty joke meant I'd be mopping floors in the pediatric hospital where I'd previously rescued lives.
Ow.
Scrubbing toilets in the break room where coworkers had given me a baby shower for Noah. My supervisor was Sophie's school parent, who regarded me as if I were something scraped off her shoe. She assigned me the harshest jobs. I was made to clean the same spots repeatedly, always found fault. One night she made me clean the trauma bay, where I had once led a code that saved a child's life. The plaque on the wall still acknowledged the nursing staff. My name had been taped over. Kara gave me notes during my shifts, risking everything to keep me informed. Logan had inquired about restricted substance disposal, specifically ketamine, and fentanyl. He had befriended nurses on the night shift, exploiting his recovery tale to gain sympathy and access. The trend was evident. He was moving beyond medications. Something more ambitious was being planned. The choice that tormented me occurred on a Thursday night. During my shift, I spotted Logan in a restricted area, pocketing expired drugs from the garbage bin. Security cameras would have captured him. However, reporting it risked breaking my job release restrictions. Protecting future victims or helping my children was a hard choice. I walked away hating myself with every step. Noah's counselor submitted a report which should have altered everything. My son insisted repeatedly that Uncle Logan had placed something in Mommy's car, offering consistent information about timing and location. Logan, however, presented a therapist's statement from Belle's life coach buddy, claiming that Noah was experiencing false memories as a result of trauma. A 9-year-old's truth was buried beneath professional-sounding lies. My substance test turned out positive for a chemical I'd never heard of. The amounts were consistent with recent consumption rather than long-term use. Tamara found it out. First, Logan had ties in the correctional kitchen via Belle's network. He had been dosing my food to ensure that I would fail any tests, adding to the evidence of my addiction. Even in jail, I was not immune from his grasp. The private investigator discovered Logan's practice run. Logan's expelled college roommate currently lives under a bridge in Portland. It's unreachable, unverifiable. However, this was part of a clearly defined pattern. This was not his first frame job. It was simply his most sophisticated. However, trends were not proof, and the roommate was unable to testify from wherever his addiction had led him. The judge accelerated my trial date, citing public interest and children's well-being. Instead of 2 months, I got 2 weeks to prepare. My attorney hurried to arrange witnesses, gather evidence, and create a defense against unfounded charges. The quickness that previously aided defendants now worked against me. Logan had also planned for this. During a discussion with my attorney, his true aim became clear. Petition for adoption was found hidden among family court records. Remained incarcerated for a year, abandonment rules took effect. Logan was not simply stealing temporary custody. He intended to eliminate me as their mother altogether. The documents had previously been drawn up, waiting for time to pass. The twisted logic developed from his blog posts, Logan honestly believed. He was shielding my children from the addiction genes, preventing them from being like him or me. In his twisted mind, he convinced himself that destroying me was an act of love, stopping the cycle by breaking me. What was the scariest part? His cries during court appearances were genuine. I took a desperate decision that crossed every ethical line I had remaining. We agreed to check Logan's flat during Sophie's school recital using Tamara's connections. Her crew discovered his stash, not only drugs, but more dangerous substances, enough to keep him away for years. But we couldn't report it unless we admitted to breaking and entering. The evidence that could have saved me would harm me in a different way. To build an alibi for the apartment hunt, I had to miss my video conversation with the kids. Sophie waited by the computer for 2 hours. According to the guard who eventually unplugged the unused session, she had prepared a song to sing for me. Not tomorrow, but something new from school. I sacrificed potential evidence for unmistakable pain. The inquiry turned up receipts for the compartment installation in my car. Logan recognized the business owner's name. He was Logan's previous dealer, someone who would do anything for the right price, but he refused to testify without immunity. And the prosecutor was not interested in deals that complicated their straightforward case. Substance dealer mother was a simpler narrative than sophisticated frame job. Character witnesses formed their own battlefield. 3 hospital colleagues agreed to speak on my professional reputation, diligence, and complete lack of a drug background. But the 4th backed out after Logan hinted he was aware of her previous prescription discrepancy, which she had only revealed to me during a vulnerable moment. He had weaponized every trust I had ever established. The judge ordered hair follicle tests for all parties involved in the custody issue. The results corroborated what I already knew. I showed no evidence of long-term substance abuse. However, the judge observed that single use was still prohibited, that nice individuals can make awful decisions. Legal innocence and true innocence were not the same thing, and I was painfully discovering the difference. My attorney requested a favor from a D contact who confirmed that the prescription fraud pattern matched Logan's time frame exactly. However, testifying would trigger a government probe that could last years, during which my children would grow up without me. Help that was unable to help. The system's brutal math. Off the record. The D contact said something scary. Logan's fake prescriptions were given to elderly hospice patients who died before anybody noticed. He'd been exploiting dead people's identities for months, effectively making him a serial killer of convenience. However, establishing it required resources that I did not have, and relationships that I could not create while in jail. Sophie had a breakdown during her forensic interview. She said that Uncle Logan had shown her the box in Mommy's car before the play. For a minute, the truth shone through. She instantly recanted, claiming she made it up for attention. Investigator noted both statements, but emphasized the recent one. Even my daughter's honesty had been turned into a lie. The compartment installer spoke up, following his own incarceration on other offenses. He admitted Logan paid cash for the installation a week before my arrest and provided receipts and extensive testimony. But his collaboration came with a price. He had to testify about all of his unlawful alterations, which implicated dozens of other clients who now wanted me dead. For revealing their secrets, I made the most difficult decision of my life. During a strategy discussion with my attorney, I agreed to speak about discovering Logan stealing from the hospital. I knew it violated my work release conditions. Truth had become more vital than strategy. If I had to go down, I'd do so with a fight, telling the jury everything I knew. Logan went to jail the night before the trial. He presented a letter of forgiveness and power of attorney documents. He promised to halt the adoption pursuit if I accepted a plea deal. 18 months out of 12 with good behavior. His hands shook as he pushed the papers into the slot. The security camera clearly revealed his dilated pupils and tremor in his fingers. He had started using heavily again, but no one noticed the obvious indicators. I looked him in the eyes and spoke honestly to the cameras. I would rather lose my children forever as an innocent woman than keep them through a lie. His face crumbled, not with victory, but rather with real confusion. He never dreamed I would. Not break, would not fold. He refused to follow the simple path that verified his narrative. The prosecutor began the trial by presenting me as a nurse who used her medical skills to steal substances. Logan sat immediately behind the prosecutor's table, dressed in a suit I knew from my father's closet, and played the victim advocate role perfectly. The gallery was divided down the middle, my supporters on the left, Logan's army of rehabilitation activists, and worried parents on the right. Both of us displayed our war scars. I'd shed 30 pounds, hadn't noticed any gray in my hair previously. Logan had gained weight. He developed a tremor and attempted to hide it by clasping his hands. We were destroying each other in slow motion, and everyone seemed to enjoy it. The installer testified that Logan expressly requested an undetectable chamber to store his girlfriend's birthday present. The falsehood was so clear that several jurors shifted uneasily, yet obvious lying did not constitute proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Then came the bailiff Jordan Wells, whom I recognized. He defied courtroom protocol by standing up in the gallery to speak without being summoned. He couldn't stay silent any longer, he said. Logan had attempted to drag him back down after 10 years of sobriety. The judge threatened contempt, but Jordan persisted. Logan was familiar with every dealer in town, as well as their weaknesses and triggers. He was a predator disguised as prey. The judge ordered hair follicle tests for all parties involved in the family court case, including Logan. His stress was obvious in his sweating, squirming, and unexpected need for a restroom break. He was fully aware that the test would reveal everything. However, the criminal trial would conclude before the data were available. Hospital security footage was validated and admitted as evidence. It demonstrated Logan entering forbidden locations. Throughout my shifts, creating opportunities for prescription theft, the prosecutor agreed that his evidence was circumstantial but convincing. Patterns formed like a picture from scattered pixels. Access, opportunity, purpose, and method all contributed to Logan's testimony. He took the stand and broke down entirely, confessing to the prescription theft. However, he swore he had never planted any chemicals. His cries appeared sincere as he spoke about attempting to save me from myself. We are safeguarding the children from our family curse. He was an addict, but not a monster, he claimed. I nearly believed him. During jury deliberation, the prosecutor made one final offer: drop all charges if I agreed to supervised visitation exclusively. No admission of guilt, but acceptance of the consequences. My attorney encouraged me to take it. Juries were unpredictable, and we had provided reasonable doubt, but not assurance. I refused. My children deserved a mother who fought for the truth until the very end. Either I'd walk out feeling vindicated, or I'd go to prison knowing I had never compromised. The jury returned after a 2-hour deliberation. The verdict was split, just as my life had been. Not guilty of trafficking. The evidence was too flimsy. The compartment seemed strange, but guilty of possession, since the narcotics were in my car, and constructive possession constituted possession. Time served, plus 2 years probation. A partial win that felt like defeat. The family court proceeded promptly. Logan's custody was revoked after he failed a drug test and admitted prescription stealing. But the kids went to my parents, not me. The judge referred to my criminal record, my need to rebuild, and the children's need for stability. No one won cleanly. I moved in with Renee, whose husband abandoned her for supporting me. We rebuilt together, 2 women whose devotion to the truth had cost them everything. My nursing license was suspended pending review, which could take years. I found employment as a medical clerk, processing paperwork where I had previously saved lives. Supervised Sunday visits became my lifeline. Sophie spoke again, but shuddered at the sirens. Noah refused to visit Logan at all, using wrath as armor. My mother, now in a wheelchair after a stroke, continued to protect Logan from her assisted living home. We were all so proud of our family tree, but it was nothing more than broken branches. 6 months later, I sat in another courtroom for the final custody proceeding. Logan was back in rehab, this time on court order. His partner, Belle, had left him when the baby tested positive for drugs at birth. The family court judge evaluated everything: my compliance, employment stability, clean substance testing, and finished parenting classes. I have dual custody with my parents. Transitions are supervised. Substance testing for all parties. Sophie's college fund was returned through a court judgment. It wasn't the life I had planned before, but it was something. Logan would be granted supervised visits once he completed therapy again. Every day on my way to work, I passed my foreclosed house. New family, new rose plants, there's new life. Inside those walls. Sometimes I parked across the street, recalling birthday celebrations and bedtime stories, Christmas mornings and homework conflicts. The GPS still called it home. Sophie once asked me if I hated Uncle Logan. I told her the truth. I despised what he did, but I couldn't hate him. He was unwell in ways that medicine could not cure, broken in areas where love couldn't go. We were all attempting to survive. Our family curse in our own unique ways. I last saw him at the courthouse, signing documents to garnish his wages for child support. He appeared smaller, deflated, like a balloon slowly losing air. He questioned if I thought he would ever improve. I did not have an answer. Some cycles break you before you can break them. But every Sunday, I picked up my children during our given time. We visited parks, museums, and other places that did not remind us of anything we had previously experienced. Sophie began singing. Again, not tomorrow, but new music. Happy ones. Noah entered the minor league with a used glove that smelled of optimism rather than privilege.